Hi, all right, so this is group 3. And John Winthrop was a Puritan lawyer and governor who left England under the glory of God. He called his statements a model of Christian charity, and he wanted to create a city on the hills with the people that traveled with him in the Arbella.
Hi, my name is Lee Boo. I am from Group 3. Today I'll be talking about some of Winthrop's criteria for economic justice. He had 3. One is a body politic must maintain differences among its members to ensure community. What he means is diversity among peoples allow for a variety of ways in which God may be honored. Also, acts of kindness by the rich towards the poor, its spirit of obedience by the poor towards the rich further manifests the spirit of ideal public life. And also, a common need among individuals with different quality shares struggles from different stations in life. It is necessary for society. And last one is no one should take excessive pride and distress in their identity. So that is 1. And for 2, worldly activities such as the acquisition of money can serve spiritual ends. He sympathized with the objection that one must first serve the needs of one's family before helping others. The role of wealth is potential use for the good of the religious state, and that one must share one's wealth with others even if they cannot repay their debts back to you. And members of Puritan society must love one another, turn to each other, and be willing to give freely of their gathered riches. This love is manifested by ideas alone. Merely warm feelings not enough. One must manifest love towards the community through works and sacrifice. And lastly, third, a stable life depends on some exterior threat to its existence. Winthrop attempts to relate this teaching to those practical concerns. A group of people brought together for various reasons hopes to profit from the new world and seek to escape religious persecution in Europe, and to foster the unifying love necessary for public life. A government that addresses both the secular and spiritual side of this community must be formed. What he created is it's like a broadly modern community to which he existed by contract and consent through a declaration of principle and rules that have been traditions to legitimate adventure in colonial enterprise. It's a corporate identity built on a provisional apologetic view of history. And then that is the end for the first main idea of John Winthrop.
A common question that is asked is if whether John Winthrop would actually accept or reject the idea of capitalism. Now, I feel like you guys should all know a little bit about capitalism before we start diving into it. Um, Capitalism is an economic system that private owners own and control property according to their interests. So basically, the trade and industry is controlled by these private owners for their own profit rather than by the state. Now, knowing all this, you should also know, well, it's important to know that Winthrop was actually known for always preaching that it was important that you should always place others first. And the root of all evilness was actually selfishness itself. In capitalism, self interest was considered a virtue. It was considered a virtue because everyone saw it as a driving force of change for the future. In The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, Max Weber stated that it forced the individuals who were involved in the system of market relationships to conform to a capitalistic rules of action. The manufacturers who in the long run acted out counter to these norms will just as inevitably be eliminated from the economic scene as the worker who cannot or will not adapt to himself to them will be thrown into the streets without a job. So basically what this is saying is that if the main person in order to win in a capitalistic economic system, you had to have self-interest. And if this person lacked that characteristic, then the next competitor that had more of this would quickly eliminate the person, and they then would become the next person that they view as an important person that would change the future. The conflict with both systems is the fact that they clashed. Winthrop believed that in order to make a true Christian community, the wealthy had to show charity and avoid taking advantage of their neighbors, while the poor, they had to work harder. Winthrop wanted to make it known the importance of a stable community and obligations between the rich and the poor. Meanwhile, in capitalism, it created competition between nations and indefinitely grew poverty within the upcoming nations. According to Winthrop, the most crucial thing that they needed to create a city on the hill was love. He believed that the community would all have to stand together, whether they were rich, poor, or any other thing that differentiated them. He was a lawyer and a governor, or a Puritan lawyer and governor, and he worked to achieve and preserve unity and love among the people. He was an example man loved and respected by all. He also believed that every nation is a covenant, which means that they had an oath to God and that they had to obey God's law. That is one of the main reasons why he left behind his family and friends and left to New Zealand, because he believed that they were already doing bad under God's eyes. So, the question stands, would John Winthrop reject capitalism? Yes, I think John Winthrop would. Only because capitalism went against a lot of his beliefs. This economic system promoted self-interest, competition, and probably hate against each other, while he believed that everyone should stick together through love and unity. If the system was set up to promote selfishness, then they were already doing bad under the eyes of God, according to him. So, yes, capitalism was a no-go for this Puritan lawyer / governor.
Hi everyone, my name is Ariana and I am a part of Group 3. In our presentation today, our main goal is to educate you more on who John Winthrop was as an individual, a Puritan, and a leader. One of the main questions I will be discussing is how the economic system John Winthrop envisioned was way different from capitalism. Now, like Samantha said earlier, capitalism is basically an economic system that encourages the growth of businesses and corporations with little to no government interference. And in shorter terms, this basically means that capitalism glorifies the race to the top for financial wealth or gain. John Winthrop envisions an economic system where everyone helps each other rather than worrying about themselves. In his writings, he uses a lot of biblical references to discuss that no matter what class you're born into, you're always there to help thy neighbor. He really emphasized that if you have extra or just way more than you need, then you would share those with those who didn't. Whether it be money or clothing, food, anything like that, he was a man who was all about sharing. This brings us back to the main question of how the economic system he envisioned was different from capitalism. They differ because one prioritizes the importance of community while the other prioritizes the individual.
In conclusion, or as a whole, John Winthrop just wanted economic justice, and he wanted to reject capitalism because capitalism was an economic system that private owners and controlled property used according to their own interest, and he wanted a sense of equality. And for that book that we have to summarize, Max Weber's The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, it was a study of the relationship between the ethics of ascetic Protestantism and the emergence of the spirit of modern capitalism. Weber argued that the religious ideas of groups such as the Calvinists played a role in creating the capitalistic spirit, And Weber wrote that particularly Calvinists' ethic influenced large numbers of people to engage in work in the secular world, developing their own enterprises and engaging in trade and the accumulation of wealth for investment. So, yeah, that's what Max Weber's The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism is about. It's basically the opposite of what John Winthrop was talking about, how he wanted inequality so everyone could get the same chances. But capitalism, obviously, which is what Max Weber is talking about here, is more of like, how do I put this? It's more of a way for people to climb in, I guess, the social hierarchy, but also like a capitalist hierarchy, and like give people chances to grow and develop their own wealth through like their business or things that you wouldn't be able to achieve if you were following Winthrop's ideals.